Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining the Aladtec webinar today. We're going to go ahead and just kind of dive right into our agenda, but I appreciate everybody's time and thank you for being here. So really the agenda for today is to just walk you through the Aladtec system itself, really just give you kind of an idea on how a lot of the key features can operate for you, what the system looks like, and give you kind of that visual that will help you understand the system a little bit more. So these are some of the items that we're going to be going through as far as our database, schedule views, forms, reports, and a handful of other topics. We are going to have a Q&A near the tail end of the webinar, but as we're navigating through the system, there is a section in the GoToWebinar panel where you can ask questions. Feel free to drop those in whenever you'd like. I do have one of my colleagues on the other end who will be answering those as we're going through. But I always like to leave a few minutes at the tail end of the webinar if there is a question that would be better answered by actually showing you. That's something we can do as well. So like I said, we're going to go ahead and just kind of dive right into our system overview. All right. So what we're looking at right away here is the homepage of the Aladtec system. This is primarily what you're going to be seeing from the desktop version and what we're going to be reviewing today, more or less from an administrator's perspective. So of course, from the user end of things, it's going to be a lot more trimmed down, extremely easy to use, but a lot of the admin functions are going to be our main focus. So when you first log in, again, you'll see this home page. You can absolutely customize it. If you want to add any sort of images, you can add links, videos, completely up to you is what's going to be displayed on this first screen. We typically add some basic instructions, but it's completely up to you. You also are going to have a dashboard off to your right. The dashboard is really, again, going to be unique to each person based on what your access is. So this is where you'd see any sort of pending requests that are waiting your approval, anything from trades to signups, all the way to any sort of vacation or time off requests. So that's going to display right there. Any sort of upcoming shifts, that's going to tell you when you're scheduled to work next would be listed in that section. And then right below that is our information expiration section. So that's if you choose to track any sort of expiring licenses or certifications within our program, this will actually give you a heads up when those things are coming close to expiring or have actually expired. Right below that is going to be any sort of events, trades, discussions. Those are all items we will kind of touch on as we're navigating through the system here today. One other thing that I wanted to mention too is that I might also do a couple of live polls here just to keep things a little interactive. And I think we'll start off with one right now here. And that should have opened the poll here. So I'm just kind of curious what kind of departments do we have with us today? As far as, is it paid and volunteer, combination, fire and EMS with multiple stations? There's a variety of people as far as what the system can cater to. And that's one thing I always like to mention as we're going through the Aladtec system is this is just one way that we've put the system together. There's a number of different ways that we can build the program and cater it to exactly what your needs are. So we'll just leave that open for a couple of more seconds here. And we'll go ahead and close this out. Looks like most people have answered. Okay. So it looks like, yeah, about 50% fire and EMS, paid and volunteer, that's perfect. We can touch on some availability for you for that group as well. Okay, that all looks good. All right, so you should be able to see my screen again here. And the next page we're gonna run through is our member database. So the member database is really where we track and store all the different profiles for everybody. It's completely up to you as to what you're tracking in here as far as the information. At a bare minimum, we just need contact info for our different notifications that are generated, but anything from date hired, titles, even across to some different certifications, again, those are all things that can be loaded right into here. This page is really only accessible to more of your administrators, where from the end user, the firefighter's point of view, they can really only see their own profile page. So we're going to take a look at that briefly as well. So if we take Frankie, I'm going to hover over his name and hit Edit Member. That's going to take us right into here. So we're just going to run through some of these pretty quickly. You have some of your basic credentials right on top there. But I did want to talk about the messaging information. So this is where each person can actually enter in their contact info. And once that's plugged in, then they can actually choose their preference of how they're contacted in some of these different scenarios. So for time off, for trades, for signups, whenever they actually have a request that's being processed, the system will automatically send them a follow-up notification, just making sure that they're aware whether or not that was approved or denied. We of course have coverage alerts, which we'll be talking about on the schedule, member information. When those expire, that'll generate a note, another message. But there's another tool here called the upcoming shift reminder, which is great for any of those part-time or volunteer staff, where it does send out a message 24 hours before each of your shifts. And that's just going to remind you of when and where you're actually scheduled to work that next day. Okay, so right below that is our different work qualifications. This is one of the parts that's going to be extremely unique based on how we build your system. You can have as many schedules and positions as you need. A lot of departments will schedule based on apparatus. You can also schedule based on station. Again, really your preference and what you're used to as to how we would build that. And then the last part of the profile is this bottom section. This is really your customizable area. So again, what we would do as we learn more about what you're looking for is we would actually build this out to your needs. It's extremely easy to add any fields here. It's all just drag and drop functionality. So once I start pulling in new fields, then I can just click right onto the labels here to rename them. And then for any of these ones, if we don't want to use them, we can go ahead and just delete the ones that we don't necessarily need. So super easy to build. And again, these are all things you can do on your own with the access that you have. Okay. And one other function here that I wanted to mention is the mass messaging tool. So if you did want to send out just a blanket email or text message out to everybody in your roster, not necessarily for coverage purposes, I have a separate tool for that, but just in general, I can check this box in the top left corner. That's going to select everybody's name, and then I can click on send message. And from there, we can do an email and a text, or an email or a text. Okay. Well, those are really the basics of the member database. Again, we can help load that data in for you. But just wanted to give you a brief run through of that area. So again, for anybody, if you have questions on what you've seen so far, feel free to drop that into the questions panel and we'll make sure those get addressed for you. Okay, I want to run one more poll here just because it does also give me kind of an understanding of what people are coming from. So this next poll here is going to be, how are you currently doing your scheduling? You know, it's very common where you have a lot of people who are still using spreadsheets or you know, whiteboards. Maybe you have a different system already and you're just kind of exploring other options. Those are all great items. So just kind of curious as to what others are using at the moment. So we'll let this one go for about 45 seconds here or so. Looks like we already got some good responses. Okay, looks like we'll go ahead and close this guy out. Can share those results with you as well. So it looks like, okay, looks like about half for other solutions, which is great. Any sort of shared calendars, spreadsheets, whiteboards, perfect. Okay. That just kind of gives me an idea of what we're looking at here. So the next area we're going to really dive into is the schedule, you know, really the core component of the Aladtec system and how we can help you streamline some of your different processes through here. So what we're looking at right now is our monthly calendar view. This is typically our most popular view and most utilized across all of our users, as it gives you a lot of great information all in one screen here. You know, rather than seeing just 1 week at a time, you can see a whole month, and you can also interact with all of your different requests from this screen as well. There are a lot of different filtering options you can use. So let's say if you're a much larger department and you have multiple stations, this will become very important, where if I just want to see, let's say my engine 1, I can hit apply there, and that's going to shrink down my schedule just to show me that group. and you can create saved filters to kind of navigate through that even more efficiently. But aside from the monthly view, we also have a few other options. So if you are looking for more of a weekly view, this is a great tool where you can see it just 7 days at a time, if this is something that you're more used to. And we have a couple of different daily options. So if you are looking for more of just a roster for the day, this is a great view as well. So these views are all great for anybody who's managing the schedule, making sure your staffing's adequate. Those are all different things that we'll be touching on here. But there's another page I wanted to take you through is the My Schedule. And the My Schedule is a really important page because this is really the only screen in our system that your firefighters or your end users would need to know. They can see their own personal calendar, and they can also interact with it from here. They of course can look at the main calendar if they'd like to, but any sort of requests, if I just click on the shifts here, let's select the 16th, for example. I can then hit request time off or request trade. You hit request time off. This is all pretty straightforward. You get a date and a time range that you can choose from. You can also choose from a list of time off codes, which can be customized for you as well, and then type in any notes there. So if I go ahead and hit request, then that's now going to be pending administrative approval. So we can have that route a notification to the appropriate, commander or officer that's going to be on that day. And then for trades can be really important, as I know there's a lot of departments that are very heavily using the trades. We have a lot of different rules that we can build around them, whether it's just you're giving up your shift, which is what we call a giveaway, or you actually require that they do a swap, where the swap is going to require that somebody actually offers you back a day right away. So it's a guaranteed day for day exchange. There's no open ends there. So we have a couple of rules we can set around that. They would also get a list of their different recipients here. So let's say if I just wanted to throw out my shift and see if somebody can pick it up, I can just hit send, or very common where they would also have already worked this out with somebody. So if I know that Seth is going to work for me, I could send this directly to Seth and not bother the others. So we hit send on that trade request, and that's now going to generate that text or email based on what each person has selected as their preference. Now, one thing with any sort of volunteer or part-time staff, this is great for full-timers, but we also do have an availability system. So for anybody who doesn't have a set schedule, one thing they can do in our calendar is go through, let's say we're looking at March here, I can hit edit availability, and this is where they can go through and say, I'm available these days for the following month, which after this has all been plugged in, they can select the days, choose the time frame, and then hit add. And that's now going to be compiled in one location for you to use as you're scheduling. And this can even be helpful for full-time or career departments as well, as I've seen other departments who might have them submit availability just in case there is a vacancy that occurs on a day and they already have a set number of people who said that they're able to work. So there's a lot of ways that we can approach this tool, but it can be really helpful. But those are going to be some of the primary member requests. And again, pretty easy to use. They can pick that up really quickly. Training's very minimal. But let's go back to the calendar here and show you what it would more look like from the administrator's point of view. So from an admin, when you're looking at your calendar, that's where you can see any of these pending requests start appearing. Anything that has this little green A on it indicates it's awaiting approval. So we'll go ahead and click right onto that time off request. You can see all the details of when it was submitted, any notes that are attached, hit approve, and then that's going to pull that person right off your schedule. So you have that vacant position for where they were working, along with sending them a confirmation message for that. And then once you select any of your trades that are out here and you hit approve on those, it will automatically make the switch right on your calendar. For example, on the 18th here, you can see Kay is working for Tim, and that'll be kind of your permanent trade record so you know what has actually occurred that day. Okay. So one of the next topics I wanted to talk about is overtime. This, of course, is a very important topic for many departments, whether you have too much of it or if it's just kind of a jumble of how it's being tracked, if it's done manually or anything along those lines. So we have a few different options here for you that Aladtec offers. Um, if we were trying to fill, let's say, this captain position or anything, let's maybe go with the EMT role here on Medic 1. So what I can do now, if I'm trying to fill this, is click on my Send Coverage Alert button. So this little blue envelope, if we click right onto that, really all you have to do is just check this box and then hit Send, because that's the position I'm trying to fill. Because what this tool is designed to do is it's only going to send this message to people who are qualified to work that position. It will automatically exclude anybody who's already working that day, and it'll also exclude anybody who's on approved time off. Now, if you wanted to choose your recipients a little more manually, you can do that if you want to, like, just send it to my part-timers first, or whatever work groups you want to build, that is also an option. But this is going to be more of a mass message that goes out to everybody. So you send out this message, and then anybody who's interested can then volunteer and sign up for that position. Once that's done and you have some signups there's a lot of different ways we can approve this. So based on whatever your unique criteria might be, whether it's hours based, we could calculate the total number of overtime hours that each person's already worked within that month or that year. We could pull in, let's just pull in like seniority, and maybe an employee type as well. So you might want to categorize that based on their employee status, their hired date. Again, a lot of variables that we can pull into here. And then when you're ready to make a decision, let's say we select Tim, hit approve, and then that's going to assign Tim right into that captain role. There are also different options for reporting purposes that are kind of appropriate in this situation. So let's say Tim was acting as a captain that day, and you have an additional, stipend that you would add to that. Then you can apply that code that will pull into your reports as well. But once Tim has been approved for that, it will also automatically decline the other 2 signups that were there, and then all 3 people get a notification letting them know whether or not they received that shift. So that's kind of option 1 as far as how Aladtec can help fill shifts for you. Option 2 here is a little bit more of an automated process. So this is more where we can have like an overtime profile. And with this tool, there's again a lot of variables that we can pull into here as far as, again, we'll do total hours, and seniority is one of the most common ones I see. So we could set this up to calculate our overtime for the year, and then tiebreakers go to seniority, where the difference of this tool is it's actually going to send out a message one by one, reaching out to them, and you can define a wait period. So whether or not you want to give them, let's say, 15 minutes or half an hour to respond to that, it'll actually work down that list based on the criteria that you've set here. So really all you have to do as the officer on that day, you press start, it'll run down that for you, and hopefully save you some time if you're making phone calls or doing anything like that now. Okay, while we're back here, this kind of ties right into our scheduling as a whole. One thing that Aladtec does also offer is a handful of different integrations. I'll pull up kind of a list here for you. But the integrations that we offer are kind of on screen right now. A lot of different reporting systems. I'm sure you're familiar with a lot of these, any sort of like emergency reporting, ESO, image trend, a variety of others. But the really cool part about the integrations and what they can do for you is they remove a lot of the duplicate entry. So when you're working on your schedule on a daily basis, putting in those sick calls, adding in those overtime components, then that's automatically updating your rosters in those systems. And that's also going to be a very frequent pull of that information. So even those last minute changes will be updated in that reporting system. It updates, I believe, I believe for all of them, it pulls every 15 minutes. So again, any changes when you're going in here, let's say I want to make some modifications to the 10th, and I go right into this screen here. Let's say I had Tracy here who called off sick. I can just hit submit time off. Let's say we put her on sick leave, hit approve, and maybe I might take Bob here and move him down into engine 2. So just those quick little changes, that's now going to populate in your reporting system. So if you have questions on the integrations, they typically can be very specific responses. So just let us know, and we can definitely address those. Now, as far as making daily changes, this is another important part here. As we all know, you can set your schedule, but the one guarantee is that you're going to have changes. So using the drag and drop features here are going to make these really quick and easy. So you can just move people's names around. Again, you could assign like an acting code if that's going to be an out of rank pay, and you could shorten or extend these. Let's say if we wanted to split a shift, then I could take Bob and Perry here and have them split the lieutenant role for that day. So lots of different ways we can establish that. And then another thing you might have noticed here is our minimum staffing. So minimum staffing is something we can define as a whole for your whole day. It'll just calculate everybody who's working, or you can define that by unit or station as well. Okay. Well, I think one of the last things I want to mention outside of your regular schedules that you're staffing on a regular basis, another important thing that a lot of departments kind of integrate into their normal schedule is any of their outside staffing. So whether that's any sort of detail or standbys, special events, those different kind of items, we can create temporary schedules that you can just open up whenever you need them. So those would appear right on the bottom of each day. Let's say you were staffing, it's like a PR event or something along those lines. Then those can be opened up. You create the vacancies, you send out your coverage alert, and then those can be staffed just like any other shift. Okay. Well, I think we're going to kind of continue off the schedule here. Actually, you know what? There's one last type of request that I want to mention that a lot of people use as well. So if you did have any sort of unplanned overtime, let's say you had a late call that came in and you ended up staying an extra 2 hours that day, or if if this is just a call out scenario, however you want to label that, one of the requests that we have that can be placed is called an extra hours request. Let me actually make sure it's turned on here. This is a relatively newer feature that we now allow people to do. And let's go in as Perry here. Okay, so if Perry had ended up staying till 9 a.m. on the 7th here, what Perry can do is then just go into the My Schedule, hit submit extra hours, and then this is where they can actually, again, place that kind of overtime request. So I can say, hey, I actually worked 7 to 9 that morning. I was working on engine 1 as a firefighter, and I'd like to take that as overtime. This is also where they could type in any notes if you want to have some reasoning behind that. But they can go ahead and put in that request, and then that's something that would then go up for approval. So you don't have to manually add that person to the schedule as the officer. All you have to do is go to your calendar, and then you can approve or deny this just like any other request. Okay, so like I said, that's about everything I wanted to cover as far as the schedule goes, and the core components. There's a lot of settings in the background we're not touching on today, but if you have other questions, again, feel free to drop those into the questions panel. The next tool I want to take you through is our Forms tool. Forms tool works great for helping you go paperless in any specific areas, whether it's going to be for like truck logs or vehicle checklists, those kind of things. Completely up to you as to what you can build in here. Even something as simple as, let's just pull up like a uniform gear request. Something as simple as this. As these forms can be or will be specifically built for you. They're extremely easy to build. Again, it's all just drag and drop functionality. So you can go in here and do this yourself, or of course, we're happy to help you build these as well as, I've seen hundreds and hundreds of these forms, so I'm always happy to make suggestions, especially if you're trying to develop something new. But really the best part about the forms tool is you can fill this out from any device, whether it's a tablet, a smartphone, anything that has internet connection, they can pull it up and they can fill it out right from here. We can also build in specific messaging components. So if something's broken or if something's missing, then I can have that automatically send an email or a text message to the person who needs to be aware of that. So we can definitely structure in some great workflow. And another big part of what you're going to get with it is the reporting options. So if you wanted to run a report that says, show me every truck log that was submitted in the last 6 months, this report could show you all of those submissions all in one big report here. You can sort through this in a number of different ways. There's a lot of different filters I can put in here if you're looking for specific information. Those again, depending on what you're looking for, be happy to have a conversation with you on that. The other reports that we do have are going to be our scheduled reports. So any sort of scheduled time that you want to run some numbers on, whether it's your overtime, how much sick leave has been used, just cumulative totals, totally up to you. A lot of different filters we can use to navigate through this. And all of our reports do export into Excel in a CSV format, or you could print it or save it as a PDF. So a lot of different ways you could extract that information from the system. We have our scheduled time report, our summary report. We even have a brand new payroll report that is a little bit more flexible as far as how things are ordered for the export. A lot of cool options there. Aside from the scheduled time, we do also have a system log. So the system log is going to track every single action that's ever taken in your system. This will give you a date and timestamp of when that action was taken, who took that action, what did they do, who it affected. This really gives you that audit trail that if you ever need to refer back to it, this is a great resource and does log every single action. And this kind of accountability really kind of goes hand in hand. I'm going to go back on our navigation here to the left with our required messages. And the required messages are a great tool. They're a lot different than like a text or an email. But whenever you create this message, what it's going to do is post that out, and the next person or the next time that person logs into the system, this is the message they're going to see. And the beauty of this tool is they can click on whatever they want here. There's no way to bypass this. You have to check that box that says, I agree that I've read and understand this, and then hit continue to actually get into the system. So just another way to post out very important messages, and then you get a date and timestamp of when each person has actually acknowledged that. Okay, just a couple of other items here, and then we're going to go ahead and take a look at our mobile site soon. But the storage area is really where you can upload any sort of documents. Completely up to you if this is something you want to use, but we give you 200 gigs of storage space. This is really the only part of our system that has a storage cap on it. As far as forms go, you can have as many forms as you want. There's no limit on submissions, anything like that. We're not going to charge you more. That's all built in to our subscription. But storage, you can have folders, upload any documents, and give people easy cloud-based access to that. And then the discussions tab here will allow you to create topics for discussion, which this is pretty popular among volunteer and part-time departments where you might not see your staff regularly. So if you don't already have like a central place for people to look for meeting notes or updates, anything like that, you can create discussions and people can make comments on those right here as well. And then lastly on our navigation here is our help section. We do have a ton of different help videos. We use a lot of these for training up new staff, so you don't really have to communicate everything yourself. We handle training for the admins on the Aladtec side of things, and then you can provide these videos for your staff to show them what they need to do. So this is a great resource for learning more about the Aladtec system. We also have a little video here to show you how to get to the mobile, which I'll show you that in just a few moments. But probably one of the most important things of what you're also getting with your Aladtec subscription is unlimited access to our tech support team. This is something we're very proud of as far as what we offer for service. You can always give these guys a call, whether it's by phone, you can send an email. We do have a live chat service here. But the best part about this team is we don't outsource it. They're all on site here with us. And when you call that phone number, you're going to get a live person on the other end of the phone. You don't have to sit on hold, submit a ticket, press 5 different phone prompts to actually finally talk to somebody while you're smashing zero. You're going to get a live person right away. So that's something that's pretty unique to us, and then we're very proud of. Okay. So next we're going to walk through the mobile here pretty briefly, and we'll give you kind of an idea of what that's going to look like. Because this is important, as the majority of your staff, they might, not even really ever log into the desktop version. This is what they're going to be using 99% of the time. So the dashboard here is the first thing that's going to come up on your phone. You'll have any sort of upcoming shifts, any available trades, open shifts, time off, events. Really, this is just designed to show you anything that's coming up in the near future. So if you hit the top right corner, these are the 2 primary screens we're going to take a look at. Is the daily summary. The daily summary is what you'd look at if you want to see who you're working with on any given day. So I can see, who's my battalion chief, who am I working with on engine 1 today, et cetera, et cetera. So you can navigate through your different days through here. But really the most important screen is going to be the My Schedule page. This, again, is where they can see a whole month at a time. I can just tap on any of the days here that it'll tell me what I'm working that day. And this is also the interactive part where if I want to put in a request, then I can just tap right onto that shift. I can request a trade, request time off. I can sign up for open shifts. You can do everything you need to right from here. So again, as far as training goes, really quick and easy for the user end. And then of course they can fill out the forms here as well. So if I was on my phone, I could actually open up the drug box inventory and I could go through and actually fill that out right on my phone. Okay. Well, that's really everything I wanted to run through today. We're going to kind of jump into our Q&A session. So if anybody's been holding on to any questions, feel free to drop those in now. For those who are looking to maybe jump off at this moment, if you don't want to hang out for this, I did just want to mention that there is in the go-to webinar panel, there is a handouts section that there's a handful of PDFs right there, some customer testimonials and some good information if you're curious and you wanted to take a look at that. But another thing we'll talk about too is, if you're wanting to see what a demo might look like, feel free to reach out to us. We're happy to walk you through your own custom demo. But let's go ahead and take a look at these questions here. Okay. First question here from Colin, which is a great question, is really how to essentially limit your staff to a certain number of hours. Make sure I have my settings still correct here. There we go. So that is done based on our work groups. So the work groups are the different profiles that you can create, and very conveniently, I have this one set up between full-time, part-time. So if you are looking to limit specifically just your part-time staff, these are the rules that we have specific to them. And what you're looking for are the work limits. So the limits are where we can establish a continuous hours in a row, which this also is great for full-time staff. Maybe we don't want people working more than 48 hours in a row if they're working 24s. So you can set up that. You can set up a total number of hours in a range of time here, whether it's like a week, pay period, whatever that may be. And then we can also require a minimum number of hours that are off in between shifts. So once these are established, you have a few options. Typically, I set these up to just show you a warning, where you can also have it just set to do not allow, where the do not allow is a hard cut on that, it will not allow you to do that. So the warning's typically the best route. As we all know, emergencies happen and you might need to override that. Okay, also looks like we have a couple questions here regarding rotations. So this is going to be kind of a blanket statement for everybody. I can really build any patterns. It doesn't matter how complex it is. It doesn't matter if it's something that you thought up on your own and you created. The rotations tool that we have called repeats and rotations here is extremely flexible. So I can go through and with kind of our stock options here, I could say, here's a 2-week, here's a 4-week, here's a 6-week. But what I can do in the background that gives me the ability to say that confidently is the ability that I can create custom patterns here. So whether you're working, 2 on, 2 off, 2 nights, 2 days, 1 on, 1 off, 1 on, that's more of I think it's called the California, 223, 48, 96, doesn't matter. We can create any patterns that you want. And then the custom ones are nice because you basically just give it a start day and a start time. And then you can run that pattern out as long as you'd like to. Okay. Checking a few more questions here. We have time for a few more. I have a couple questions here regarding payroll. That again is kind of a tough question to answer, depending on what system you're using or what you're actually looking for us to provide to you. One thing I wanted to mention that we didn't really cover today is we do have a time clock. So if you are actually looking for people to clock in or clock out and have more specific records, we have that as an option. That does come at an additional cost, but be happy to give you anybody who's interested a quote on that. But that gives you some more options as far as your reports go. But generally speaking, anybody who's using our system for payroll, what they're doing is configuring their reports to pull the information they're looking for. You of course have to make sure all your time codes are matching up. What's in our system is what's in your payroll system. And then you would click the export button here to pull that into a CSV format, which that is the most commonly accepted form that payroll systems are going to take. So there might need to be some manipulation from there. We also do, for those very tech savvy people, we do have an open API. If you're not sure what that is, that's basically where we can have two systems communicate and pull information from one another. That requires a lot more programming, but again, for those more tech savvy folks, we do have that as an option. And again, happy to answer any questions specifically to that. All right, so just reading a couple more here. I think we have time for about 2 more regarding. Looks like we got another good question here from Glenn. So it sounds like with the way that they're doing kind of their overtime list, which is a very common method, is basically when you accept or decline, you're going to rotate to the bottom of the list. And some people do it differently, where if you only move on that list if you accept, where others will move you to the bottom even if you ignore it or decline it. So in our coverage alerts staggered tool here, the options you're looking for are last accepted and last offered. So that way you can have it rotate through that list. And again, based on whether it's accepted or offered, that's going to bump that person to the bottom of the list there. Okay. Well, I think that's about all the time we have here today. There were a couple of questions regarding pricing. Unfortunately, I can't give you an accurate number without learning a little bit more about your department. So what I'd ask that you do is just reach out to us. You can either get a hold of us at 888-749-5550, or you can see more information about how to contact us as well at our website at aladtec.com. But what we'll do is we'll get you in contact with one of our account representatives. They'll learn kind of a little bit more about your department and what you're looking for. A big part of what the number revolves around is how many employees you have. So they'll dig into that, and they'd be happy to provide you a free quote. And also, if you're interested in a demo, very similar to what we did today, but it would be a little more interactive, where we could do that over GoToMeeting. We would be happy to do that as well. But I just want to thank everybody for their time today. Really appreciate it. Again, feel free to reach out, but I hope you all have a good rest of your day.